Some of the most compelling stories out there are built on the friction between two people who, on paper, just shouldn't work. They're total opposites, maybe even rivals, but there's this connection you just can't ignore. Today, we are diving deep into one of the most electric, most complicated examples of this, the relationship between Simon, the mercenary, and Hikaru, the nano-engineer.
And this quote? This is the perfect place to start. It's not just flowery language, it perfectly captures the entire vibe between them in one sentence. That thread of electric current, it's everything. It's that spark of hate, for sure, but it's also the very energy that fuels their bizarre connection and their incredible teamwork in a fight. It's this raw power that could totally destroy them or somehow bring them together.
So, to really get a handle on these two, you've got to think in archetypes. The story itself gives us this amazing metaphor. Simon is the cunning, unpredictable fox, and Hikaru is the wary, quiet, but ferocious cat. And honestly, it's the perfect lens to see their every move through.
Just look at this breakdown. They are complete and total opposites. You've got Samon, the mercenary, who's all about this dominant, provocative, chaotic energy. And then on the other side, there's Hikaru, the nano-engineer, quiet, precise, totally methodical. And these aren't just little personality quirks. This is who they are at their core. And that clash is what creates that constant, fascinating tension between them from the second they meet.
Let's talk about the fox for a second. This quote just nails Simon's whole deal. It's not just that he's confident. His presence is almost predatory. It's so overwhelming it's described as literally suffocating the space around him. He doesn't just walk into a room, he takes it over.
And then you have the complete opposite with Hikaru. His power isn't loud or big. It's a contained ferocity. Just picture a wildcat, coiled, silent, ready to strike at any second. It's this quiet intensity, this dangerous, self-protective vibe that makes him every bit as scary as Samon, just in a totally different way.
So, what happens when these two forces, the fox and the cat, finally collide? Well, their first meeting is, let's just say, it's not your typical meet cute. It's weird, it's tense, and it sets the stage for everything that comes after, framing their whole dynamic around power and cruelty.
Okay, so the setup here is incredibly dark. Hikaru is at his absolute weakest. He's been captured, he's been drugged. And who shows up? Simon. But he's not there to be a hero. Nope, he pulls up a chair and just watches him. For hours. This isn't a rescue, it's a performance. He's sizing Hikaru up, establishing this dynamic of cold, cruel observation right from the get-go.
And if you had any doubt about what Simon was thinking, this line just erases it. When someone asks him later why he didn't just sleep, this was his answer. Hikaru's suffering, his helplessness, it wasn't a problem to be solved, it was entertainment. It's a seriously chilling look into the kind of cruelty that Simon is capable of.
But here's where their story takes another really bizarre turn. That predatory first meeting somehow morphs into something even stranger, a repeating, unspoken ritual that seems to contradict everything we just saw.
This whole pattern is just a massive paradox. It makes absolutely no sense. The predator who watched Hikaru suffer for fun now shows up on his doorstep, bleeding out and totally vulnerable. And Hikaru, the victim, becomes his caretaker. Why? Why does he help the guy who was so awful to him? There's no thank you, no explanation, just this weird, repeated cycle. It's a silent, almost disturbing kind of intimacy built on violence and healing.
Now, to make any sense of this strange bond, we have to bring a third person into the mix. She's the key that unlocks their whole dynamic, Maya, who is Simon's sister. She is the shadow that hangs over everything they do.
And this one line, it says it all, doesn't it? This is the glue, as strained as it is, that holds them together. The hate they have for each other is very real, but their shared love for Maya is the one, and maybe the only piece of common ground they have. It creates this unbreakable, though incredibly tense, connection that forces them to stay in each other's lives.
But of course, it's not that simple. That shared love is also the source of their biggest conflict. See, Samon blames Hikaru for something that happened in the past, an incident that hurt Maya. He believes it was Hikaru's fault. So while Maya is the reason they're connected, Samon's guilt and his deep-seated resentment are constantly fueling the fire of his anger towards Hikaru.
So let's switch gears for a minute, from all the conflict to the moments where things get really fascinating. Because when these two are forced to actually work together, especially in a fight, all that opposition somehow transforms into this shockingly effective unspoken synergy.
This is just classic Simon, right? Even in the middle of a huge fight, he can't help himself. He has to taunt Hikaru, calling him Hika-chan in that annoying, condescending way. It just goes to show you, even when they're on the same team, that antagonism is always simmering right below the surface.
When they fight, their archetypes really come to life. Seimon is all chaos and misdirection. He's the unpredictable fox. Hikaru, on the other hand, is all about precision and deadly efficiency. He's the focused cat. Logically, you'd think these styles would just be a total mess on the battlefield.
But they don't clash at all. They merge. This description of them dancing between instability and rigor is just perfect. Seimon's chaos creates these openings, and Hikaru exploits them with that surgical precision. They create this seamless, deadly partnership without ever having to say a word. It's just instinct. Which brings us to the most confusing and maybe the most important part of their relationship. Because buried under all the cruelty and the resentment and the fighting, there are these rare, small moments of genuine tenderness that just seem to fly in the face of everything else we know about them.
Take this for example. For Simon's birthday, Hikaru doesn't just get him some generic gift. He builds him a custom Q robot fox and names it Inari. I mean, think about that for a second. He takes their whole central metaphor, Simon as the fox, and turns it into this deeply personal, thoughtful act of care. This is way beyond just patching up some wounds.
And then you get this. After a night out, this is what Simon, the cruel, taunting mercenary, whispers to Hikaru. The tone is described as warm, almost seductive. He calls him Hikatan, this affectionate nickname, and says he's adorable. This is a side of Simon we basically never get to see, a shocking flash of unguarded warmth.
What happens next is just as telling. Hikaru, who's drunk and vulnerable, lets his guard down and rests his head on Seimon's shoulder. And Seimon, instead of pushing him away or making a joke, he just responds with care. He gently picks him up and carries him home. It's this quiet, tender moment that is the complete opposite of that predator from their first encounter. For just a second, the fox isn't hunting the cat, he's protecting him.
So after all of that, where does that leave us? What are they? Are they enemies, just stuck together because of a shared love? Are they reluctant allies who happen to have incredible synergy? Or is it maybe something more? The friction, the history, the moments of cruelty mixed with these surprising moments of care, it all builds into this powerful, undeniable connection. Really, the biggest question isn't what they are right now, but where a bond this complicated, this volatile, is ultimately going to lead them.